The 2022-2023 Cleveland Cavaliers are next up on our draft season, NBA season preview for our teams. This is a team that has been in the headlines this off season, obviously with the acquisition of Donovan Mitchell from the Jazz. Ricky Rubio is back. Robin Lopez, a very sneaky pickup for them also on this team.
Still in the league. Shout to him.
Yeah, collecting checks, boxing out, rebounding. That's what he does. Raul Neto, some good third point guard depth there. RJ Nembhard was re-signing, and Isaiah Mobley, brother of Evan Mobley, drafted to this team. Colin Sexton
Shout to
obviously
Isaiah
left
Mobley,
in that.
man.
Yeah. I
Shout,
think
that wasn't
he's
just
gonna
like
be
a
all
pure
right.
nepotism pick. It wasn't just a pure nepotism pick. Like Isaiah could play. Like that was obvious if you watch those. The teams that he was on before, like real mobile, skilled big man. Good rebounder, not a bad defender. Like he could definitely play.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably find a little resistance in cracking this rotation currently, but I mean, as a long term project, yeah, he should be fine. Sexton gone in that trade with D Mitch, Lauri Markkinen also gone. Ochai was drafted and traded, and Moses Brown signed with the Clippers. So, just on paper right now, the addition of Donovan Mitchell to this team makes them a very scary team. Some would say a real threat in this new stacked and loaded Eastern Conference, capitalizing off of the kind of the out of nowhere success they had last year. If this team is healthy, Sean, I think this is a team that no one's really going to want to play. And I guess what is your take on some of the depth that they have, the new pieces, and kind of the ceiling for a team like this?
It was legit a tale of two seasons for the Cavs last year. Obviously, they were one of the best stories last year. We talk about being in there's just something to put in a good product on the court when it comes to the NBA. You don't want to, you have these teams who you don't want to be a cellar dweller and in the lottery. The post LeBron era definitely was not pretty, and they struggled. It's funny because you talk about like even just like rewinding back for a second. I think in the past couple of years they've done a pretty good job of drafting. Obviously, Evan Mobley at what did he go 3 last year, I believe. Evan Mobley at 3. Kind of just gold falling into your lap. We're definitely going to talk more about Evan Mobley in the future. We spoke about how I feel like a lot of the public was high on Evan Mobley last year, and somehow after watching his rookie season, feel like we still weren't high enough on Evan Mobley going into what he did last year. But yeah, the Cavs, what they did, especially going back to just the LeBron era, like I said, they've drafted pretty well this year. I mean, these last couple of years. But it's just crazy because if the organization was as good as it has been over the past couple of years of just acquiring talent, shout out to Kobe Altman, obviously president of basketball operations, GM over there right now, and he's done a pretty good job of drafting talent. Sexton's Darius Garland's year last year, just the improvement that he made on getting into his potential and just becoming one of just the most dynamic point guards in the league. One of my favorite players to watch in the league for what he was able to do, plus range, really able to stretch defenses out, pulling up from deep, really crafty in his game. And I think even his passing ability took a huge jump last year, especially the chemistry he had with Jarrett Allen last year was incredible. So I mean, just to throw it back to you at least, just in terms of the package, or just talking a little bit about the fit, because this team is obviously on the up and up. The East is going to be incredibly hard, as we've said on a couple of these other team previews this season. But how are you feeling about, obviously, as we follow the Knicks very closely, and there was all of the hubbub about Donovan Mitchell possibly going to New York, and he obviously ends up on the Cavs. But just in general, striking while the iron is hot, how do you feel about just the Garland and Donovan Mitchell fit together?
I mean, defensively, I think that was kind of the issue with most places they were talking about Donovan Mitchell being traded to. How would those backcourts fare defensively? Because I don't know if anyone has noticed, but Donovan Mitchell's defense since leaving Louisville has kind of gone the other way as he's becoming
I would say like he
I
played
mean,
defense was like those first couple years.
yeah, but it's a steady decline from his trapping days at
He
Louisville. Is
was
what I was saying.
yeah, he was like that's how he was getting on the court defensively. And
Yeah,
I would definitely agree with that. It has been a decline, and part of it could be offensive load. It's hard to ask guys to, be a 25 point per game scorer, whoever Donovan's been these past couple of years, and
for
exert all
sure.
the energy on offense and still be, plus defense. I talk about this a lot, Raz, especially with Donovan Mitchell in particular, because I feel like he has a lot of high flying moments, and he's one of the best 1 foot leapers in the league. The bounce that he has is insane. You probably think he's bigger than he actually is. He has a very long wingspan, but like even taking a look at some of the media day pictures, like he's the same height as Darius Garland, and Darius Garland is like
Yeah,
6'1". So I think people think Donovan is a little taller than he is, and we talk about the defensive issues that they had in Utah, and yeah, he's probably limited as a defender just due to pure size. And if he isn't exerting his full energy on that side, yeah, it can get ugly.
yeah. Offensively, you look at the potential of that backcourt, and Darius Garland is someone who you know has blossomed and bloomed before some of the casuals eyes last season. I mean, obviously he didn't play a lot in college, so it was hard to kind of gauge him there, but that high school tape and who he was coming into college, we knew he was one of those guys. And just being put in the system in Cleveland, and obviously we all wanted the Sexland backcourt to kind of really be a thing, but Colin Sexton getting hurt last year. Fortunately and unfortunately for him, unfortunately he was hurt, but fortunately for Colin, for what's his name, Darius Garland, he was able to capitalize on free reign in kind of that backcourt. So we were able to see the best of Darius Garland, last year and what he can be. But pairing that level of scoring with somebody like Donovan Mitchell is going to be just incredible for that team. And I think this team with the anchors behind them, obviously Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley. Now you have Robin Lopez. Who else is on the front line of that team?
Kevin Love
I mean,
still out here.
Kevin Love is still there. Okoro's going to help on the defensive end from a wing perspective, and I do think they're going to be trying to get Dean Wade some minutes in there somewhere as well. This team
He just signed the extension.
this team has the defense behind that 1-2 combo that could kind of help shore up some of those defensive lapses.
Yeah, so I mean, talking about this team in general, because obviously, like I said earlier, tale of 2 seasons for them. They were 35-23 pre All-Star break, around the time that Jarrett Allen got hurt, and the season completely kind of went off the deep end last year. But even though, like, I think they obviously flamed out, lost that playing game against the Hawks. I think who was the second playing game against? I forget who they played that second one off the top of my head. But yeah, obviously they ended up missing the playoffs. But
Wasn't
when
it
it
the
comes
Nets?
to one of those, yeah, it might have been the Nets. Was it the Nets and then the Hawks in the second playing game? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just in terms of when you have a young team like that, you just want to see signs from all of your young players, and especially the young core. So you still have to look at that season as such a success. And when it comes to finding the pieces, that team was so good that they probably weren't going to end up in the top half of the lottery anytime soon within the next couple of years, even if they didn't go all in on a Donovan Mitchell. So when you're in a position like that, this, especially a trade like the Donovan Mitchell trade, it's a full bet on a guy like Evan Mobley. So I mean, getting into Evan Mobley at least, like, what did you make of his rookie season, and like how, talking about the upside that he possesses, what do you see for him as he gets to year 2 and further in these next couple of years? Because obviously, I think the big elephant in the room for this team is Donovan Mitchell was signed through 2025.
Yep.
Now, just in terms of the picks that they gave up, it was 3 first-round picks going to Utah. Those are going to be in 2025, like I said, the year that Donovan Mitchell's current contract expires, 2027 and 2029. So these picks, it's interesting because obviously there's no guarantee Donovan Mitchell is going to resign in a couple of years. So this team has a core that they obviously are. Not to say that it's championship or bust for them right now, but in terms of the next few years, they're going to have to improve a lot just to get Donovan Mitchell to re-up, because you got a guy like Donovan Mitchell, later guy. So it's just like he's closer to his peak right now. I think he just turned 25, so he's getting into the best years of his career. Remains to be seen what he's going to value. It sounds like he did really want to play in a big market such as New York, maybe Miami. So when he finally does reach free agency, it's going to be a point to where it's going to be the first 8 years of his career spent in Utah, in Cleveland. So once he finally has the free reign and the power in front of his own career to make that decision for him, we're gonna find out exactly what he's going to value. Does he want to stay in a small market like Cleveland? Is that going to be the best situation for him? Or is he going to go, the greener pastures that he seems elsewhere? So, but going back to the Evan Mobley, because like I did say, this is an all-in bet on Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley was incredible last year. Just to talk about him, because just watching him and, say even for some of the other projects we have working on, going back and watching what he did last season, the type of one of the most frustrating things for bigs, just talk about discipline, not fouling a lot, being able to guard your position without getting those ticky-tack fouls and staying on the court. He was, when we talk about being advanced and wise, way beyond his age as a defender. He's one of those guys that's really able to stay on the court. His, anticipation and just defensive IQ is extremely high for somebody who's coming into the season as a 20-year-old. So we talk about Evan Mobley, and the sky is literally the limit for him. But what did you make of his rookie season? And what do you I think he's obviously, because this team has 3 All-Stars and Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley he's not even the obviously he's a core piece and he's the most important piece of this team's future. But when you have a situation like that, even looking at the Knicks going all in for Donovan Mitchell, the tertiary pieces of this team and the complementary pieces, they're still looking for those extreme building blocks. And you could probably say you have a Garland. I think Garland is definitely, just for he has somebody who has upside to be a top 10 point guard in the league at his peak, and he's probably damn near, if he's not there already, he's going to get there very, very soon. And he was definitely deserved that All-Star last year. And I think he had All NBA. He didn't make the All NBA team last year, but he was definitely, it's just due to the point guard position being extremely loaded. But he had an All NBA offensive season last year. So what are you just making of that next step for Evan Mobley and how it can unlock, the upside for this Cavs team?
I mean, Evan Mobley is his rookie year surpassed, most people's projections. He fit in right away. He looked like he belonged. I know at first people were worried about kind of some of the strength issues would be a problem for him. He combated those as best as anyone I've seen in a while. I think when you look into it, Evan Mobley is the type of player going forward for this team that absolutely become a superstar without being the best scorer or the number one scorer on the team. His impact on the that's not even gonna, I'm saying, he's going to be a superstar and he's going to be the superstar that it doesn't matter if he's getting 30 points a game. His impact on the game is going to be felt everywhere. He's going to be, hopefully he's going to end up in conversations for defensive player of the year. I feel like he has that ability. He's put on a bit of weight. They're saying out of training camp. So, or as training camp begins. So, he'll probably play some of that down, the weight that's gained, but he's going to come into a more adult male body, so he'll be stronger, and this team is just going to have another year of continuity. I think he's going to be able to take a big step. Obviously now with the addition of D Mitch, again, you're still not going to look for him to take on a much heavier scoring load, but as he's been working on his face-up game and things like that, just the little additions to his game that he's going to make in this current system, and as they're currently situated, it's going to make them almost just an unguardable team with him, because he's obviously somebody who's going to have bigs on him, and he's going to be able to work bigs with an increased offensive skill set. And then obviously defense, we saw him get switched onto fucking guards last year. and hold guards down on the perimeter. So, he's legitimately guarding every position. And I think, Evan Mobley is the going to be the best player on this team when it's all said and done. But, as of right now, playing in the system, he still has the ability to be superstar impact.
Yeah, and like you said, the offensive impact kind of is just secondary. Whatever you get from him is going to be, gravy on top, cherry on top of just this team and what they're giving you. Especially last year, this team was 20th in offensive rating, so about the 20th best offense in the league, and they had the 5th best defense last year. And that's kind of with Jarrett Allen missing a huge chunk of that season. I'm sure if we cut up some of those numbers before his injury, it definitely was this is a team that has potential to possibly be the closer 20th is going to be tough to see them get that low again. So I definitely think just the dynamism that the backcourt is going to bring. There's going to be a lot of stuff, even weak side pick and rolls. You're going to have Garland initiate on one side of the court. You're going to have spacing in the corner. I think even Kevin Love's shooting is kind of going to be pretty important for this team. But I still do think Kevin Love is a guy who you can trust to get up threes at a high volume. So I think even his spacing, and even though they're losing Laurie, I think that's just the Laurie thing last season, because Laurie, it's interesting how and we just talk about being a good organization and using assets in a good way, because Laurie kind of was just sticking out there in free agency last year, even after most teams didn't have any cap space yet, and most of the major free agent signings were done, and nobody wanted him. And the Cavs said, what, he's a good player, we're going to go ahead and sign him. And Laurie had a pretty damn good last season last year on this team, even. And it comes down to it speaks to the versatility of guys like Mobley and Jarrett Allen, and the versatility that they do possess to be able to both play, drop and hedge extremely hard on plays, and even switch when you need to. So, and it goes back to even Sexton. Sexton is another one, and I think about why, like, you could speak about, was it time to go all in on a trade like this? And I think the fit between, like I said, I think the fit offensively between Sexton, I've done that twice now, between Garland and Donovan Mitchell is going to be really damn good. But even just talking about, we get to the actual, I think we talk about the actual fit between two bigs in the front court, because I think that it was heavily criticized, and it kind of didn't make sense before you actually saw them play together. But I think just the improvement that Jarrett Allen made, the main reason the Cavs played double big lineups and get away with it offensively is because their bigs were both able to pass and make big reads. I think Jarrett Allen really improved on making those short roll reads, and Mobley's passing ability was probably underrated coming into the league. If you watch the USC tape, they were running a lot of actions for him at the top of the key, where he was the main focal point, and he was able to hit cutters, slashing. So these are two versatile big men offensively and defensively. So it's a part of the reason why, this team has, just a really interesting upside. So, just getting into some of the other, just questions that we have for this team. I want to talk a little bit more about Donovan Mitchell, Raz, because I know obviously we have some more content coming soon. Top players in the NBA list, but, they love you until they hate you. Donovan Mitchell came into the league as, he was the non-Ben Simmons. He was, he was that guy, small market, star in Utah. And early, the flower was really bloomed for a guy like Donovan Mitchell. But as he's come along, we've seen some of the, just, let's say, the efficiency at times that can, kind of avoid him. Sometimes he can be a streaky scorer. And like I said, I think some of it just comes down to, his size. And there are limitations, even though he's, an insane athlete. But where are you at on, Donovan Mitchell, at least? 'Cause I know even Knicks fans were like, is he worth that package? And, I think part of it, it's never as bad as the criticism reaches. But where are you at just in terms of Donovan Mitchell in general, and where he stands in the overall, NBA pecking order of best players, or even like guards?
I mean, it's tough, right? When you talk about trading, mortgaging your quote unquote future for a player, you would like to become, like, that's the next step to contention if you're gonna do that, right? But I think sometimes you have to make a deal to get your team over a certain hump. If it's not going to be That final hump, it still needs to be a certain hump. And I think Donovan Mitchell would have got the Knicks there, right? And I think in terms of just the pantheon of where he is as a player, right? Like the NBA has more talented players than we've ever seen, before, right? So it's like, Donovan Mitchell 10 years ago, we might be talking about him as somebody else, but he's probably, you know, he's not a lock to make any all NBA teams, right? So that automatically puts him out of the top 15 in theory, quote unquote. So it's like he's probably in that next batch of players, right? Between, I don't want to give away any content, right? But he's between, let's say he's just between 15 and 30. Now, do you think, a player between 15 and 30th best player in the league is worth the package that, what you call it, Ainge wanted from the Knicks? It's tough. It literally case by case. I think Donovan Mitchell is a very good player. He's a volume shooter, and we are in the time of analytics where we're judging things with a lot of different stats and a lot of different metrics, and sometimes people are just not watching what's happening on the court. And I'm one of those those not players, but one of those people that I do look into some of the advanced metrics, but sometimes it's hard to turn away from an eye test, right? Like the data can only do so much. And Donovan Mitchell passes most of those eye tests, and he would have been electric in the Garden, obviously. And I think he's going to bring that final punch that Cleveland needs, because at the end of the day, he's a bucket and he's going to be 20 plus points per game. But that offensive talent and defensive talent that he's around now in Cleveland elevates them. Like he has one job in Cleveland, and that's to score the ball. So if we're just freeing him up to get buckets and the team can do everything else, I mean, it's totally worth the price for the Cavs.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that when it comes to just Donovan in general. Is that worth basically 2 years of that package of giving it up? Possibly, what was it, 3 first-round picks for 2 years of Donovan Mitchell?
And some,
it is a lot, because like I said, he has a player option for the 2025 2026 season. So as long as he, like, especially with the new TV contract, most likely he's going to opt out going into that, and get back into free agency for that year and get another max contract. So it's going to be really important for this team to win. So I mean, just getting into a little bit more of the secondary pieces on this team. Isaac Okoro is another one of, I think he's going to be a super important guy on this team, just in terms of what he's going to do. He coming out, somebody who went in the top 10 of that 2020 draft. He has, there wasn't a lot of, star potential for him unless he just became a great shooter, which he really still hasn't shown, but he does a lot. Really, he's a great glue piece for this team. He's going to be able, he has a size, strength, and athleticism, plus a lot of good just intangibles that he brings to the court. So he's going to be one of those Swiss Army knives that's going to be able to, you put him next to two guys like Mitchell and Garland, and his life is going to be a lot easier, and you're not going to be asking a lot for him. Now, I think if this team is really going to want to maximize what they're going to want to do, and whether that's, and I think even for a team like Cleveland, like, is it really it's not really championship or bust for them, even though I think they might be happy with winning a playoff series or getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, especially just we talk about what happened in the post LeBron era. So like that might just be a great consolation for them. But this team's upside is still pretty high, and like I said, it probably does just go to what they're going to get from Evan Mobley in these next couple of years. So I mean, when it comes to the rest of these teams, like, what are you expecting out of a guy like Caris LeVert, who's still on the team? We have not mentioned him yet. He's probably going to be the sixth man for this guy. You have Teddy Osman as well. So I mean, what do you expect? Like, what do you think this team needs? I think even talking a little bit more about just lineup combinations. They also did bring back Rubio, like you did say earlier. I think this team is going to really need Kevin Love to stay healthy. I think his shooting is going to be actually really important for this team. But what else do you see is just in terms of where they'll need to improve or weaknesses for this core?
I mean, I think just they probably need a 3 and D as every team in the NBA needs to put around some of these high volume, um, dribblers and shooters that they already have. I think if you're looking at this second unit, right, Ricky Rubio, if healthy, um, it's very hard to do better than that in a backup point guard, in the NBA. So you have Ricky Rubio, Karis LeVert is a bucket off the bench. Chetty has had his moments. Osman, he's definitely had his moments. I think he, is going to be fighting for minutes there. Kevin Love is probably their sixth man to me. I think in terms of minutes, and with Karis LeVert, they'll it'd be interchangeable there. But like you said, he's going to be very important. And then that Jarrett Allen insurance that they have now with Robin Lopez. Obviously, Robin Lopez is no Jarrett Allen, but you know what you're going to get from him. And if he's forced to play some minutes, he's very reliable in his role. He's stuck in the league for a reason. He's a great teammate and he helps teams. So, I mean, this team is pretty deep. And we're not even talking about, Raul Neto and Lamar Stevens and Dean Wade, who are players that have gotten minutes, for this team in the past and have played very, very well in those minutes. I think, this team has a lot of options and a lot of, lineup combos that they can go to. Again, as we've been talking about with all of these other recaps that we've been doing, closing lineup. What is this team's closing lineup? And, obviously it's probably going to look like, Garland, Mitchell, Mobley's a lock, Allen's a lock, and that small forward, position, it could be Karis LeVert, right? Like I think he's somebody who could close games with them, but depending on the matchup, could they go Evan Mobley at the 5 and put Love at the 4 to close out a game? If they need a little bit more firepower offensively, like they have a lot of different options depending on matchup, and I think this is kind of the reason why they'll thrive this year. I think having Ricky Rubio as a backup point guard, shores up a lot of ball handling and role responsibilities with a second unit. But, I'm even eager to see if they'll break up some of the Garland and Mitchell minutes and have them run the teams by themselves.
Yeah, that's definitely just talking about, like, I think even a guy like Dean Wade that you did mention, just in terms of getting more shooting on the floor, I do think those because Mobley and Jarrett Allen are going to spend a lot of time on the court together, but like you said, it'll be interesting to see the non-staggered lineups and how they work around that. Dean Wade is a guy who definitely, offense plus, a floor spacer, somebody who has the ability to get up a lot of, shots in good volumes. And he's not really a plus defender, but he's big. I think he's listed at like 6'9", 6'10". So if you put him next to a guy like Jarrett Allen or even, sharing the court, there's going to be a lot of funky lineups on this team, and it's going to make for, some interesting, combinations. I do think JB Bickerstaff he had an incredible season just as a coach, and I do think just in terms of his in-game X's and O's and flexibilities in terms of lineups, he did a pretty damn good job of that last season of picking the right lineup combinations to play at the right time, particularly when they did have some injury depth. And it was just crazy to think about, like, especially like they lost like so many of their point guards. Like it was like I forgot Rondo was on this team last year. Rubio had got hurt, so it'll be interesting. I know like a full season.
Is Rondo not still on this team?
Is Rondo not in jail? Like I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't think he is. I don't think anybody signed Rondo. After those, after whatever those news.
I think Rondo's still on the Cavs roster, man. Hold on.
No, I think he's a free agent. He's a free agent. I'm looking at it right now. He's still a free agent.
Okay.
So we're basically seeing some team probably is going to sign him, but I think Rondo's cooked anyway. But that's just me. But somebody will sign up. Somebody will sign up for the intangibles and just the the ornery vibes that Rondo brings with him to the locker room. But just to cap this off on our Cavs preview, plus 3,000 are the title odds on DraftKings currently. And the over-under is 46.5. They won 44 games last year. Now, I'll start on this one because I'm banging this over. I think this team is going to be a really good regular season team. I think they have enough depth, especially when you get into the fact that Like, I love Karis LeVert. He's one of the most heartwarming stories in the league. You know, I think he passed the aesthetics test, the eye test of just like he's a hooper. You know, he has, a great bag. He has a lot of, trick shots and great scoop finishes around the basket. So, but I think just in terms of his overall game, when you get into some of the defense, he's not a bad defender, but he's also not as good of a defender as you probably want for, the amount of for the time that he spends on the wing. And, I've always wanted him to be a better shooter that he's kind of still not. I think off the top of my head, I think he's around like a 33% shooter, around that range for his career. So, but when you get him as, your 6th, 7th man, you could probably put him into that 6th man of the year combination if he stays, competition as he stays healthy and he's able to get into there. Yeah, he's 33% on 4 attempts per game as a shooter. So, you definitely want to see if he ever improves on that. Then we're talking about somebody, obviously, who can start on other teams. But yeah, 46.5 wins, Raz. I'm taking over. How about you?
So Vegas, like we know, very good at what they do. I think the East is going to be very tough this year. I do think this is a top 5, top 6 team in the East. Obviously, I think wins are going to be tough, even in that division a bit. So I think the number is very much spot on. I think they will hover around 46 to 48 wins this year. So in regards to our you know our agreement, we've been agreeing on everyone. I think I'm gonna go with the under here because I really do think it's going to be 46 right on the dot. So I will mark our first disagreement today with this series with the under on the Cavs, but right at 46. I don't think this is a bad team, and I think you'll be surprised to see how many good teams are in the East this year.
I think they're gonna win 50 wins, 50 games this year. I think they have enough offensive firepower. If they, like, you kind of have to, unless you have just like a checkered, health past. It's you kind of just have to expect everybody to stay healthy for even I think even a calm projection is, even if, like, as long as everybody plays like 65, 70 games, I think they have enough depth. The shooting could be a little tricky on this team. I think I got, like, looking at this team, it's going to be a lot. I think Donovan Mitchell is good enough getting downhill, and as Darius Garland, as he has definitely just improved and turned into such a good passer and playmaker, they're going to be a lot of, like I said, just funky combinations, and they're going to have to do a lot of stuff to where they're going to have to get, other guys involved. But yeah, the shooting could be a little tricky because I don't think there's if anybody has a down year shooting, Okoro, you're still playing too big at the time. Evan Mobley, the shot is still, hypothetical at this point. I think teams are going to leave him open from 3. If you space out Jarrett Allen, I still do think he has enough. You still have to account for him as a vertical lob threat, but it could get a little funky if Donovan Mitchell is prone to a bad shooting night here or there. So if teams are able to actually, account for that and get guys that, you don't want shooting the ball on the Cavs to take a lot of the shots, it could get a lot funky. There could be some nasty shooting nights, but I still don't think, even accounting for a really small backcourt, one of the smallest backcourts in the league, if not the smallest backcourt in the league, off the top of my head, they might just be like, is it just how much better can this team be than, or even I think, just thinking about that Portland backcourt with CJ and Dame, because I do think there's going to be some similarities to what Garland and Mitchell can be together. But that Portland team never had those dogs on the back line like Evan Mobley and, Jarrett Allen. So I think that's definitely a different, equation, and it definitely changes the litmus test for this team. But yeah, that'll wrap us up for the Cleveland Cavaliers. 46.5 wins. Are you taking the over or are you taking the under? Hit us up. Drop a comment. Make sure you guys are subscribed to that draft season podcast. About a month out from the NBA season, actually less than a month, about 3.5 so weeks from the NBA season. We're going to be hitting you guys off the top with content every day. So make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you guys do know when we are dropping new content on the page. It's going to be the draft season podcast, and we'll be back with some more content coming soon for you guys.